Like to, thank you. Like to call the meeting to order. Russell, could you please call the roll? Or Deborah? Sorry.
I'll do it.
Russell.
Councilmember Albritton?
Present.
Councilmember Hartman?
Here.
Councilmember Kaczynski?
Here.
Vice Mayor Jablonski?
Here.
Mayor Bright Cruz? We have a quorum.
Okay. If I could get a motion at this time.
Make a motion to excuse the mayor?
I need a second.
Second, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Could you call the roll, Deborah?
Councilmember Albritton?
Present.
Councilmember Hartman?
Here.
Councilmember Kaczynski? Yes. Vice Mayor Jablonski?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Could everybody please stand for the pledge? Thank you, everybody. And for those of you out in YouTube land who are watching, thank you. We have the great honor today of having Marty Kerr, our Broward County property appraiser here, who's going to give us a little, some good information, I understand.
Absolutely.
And we always love it when he comes by because he's always got some good news for us.
Thank you so
Marty,
much.
take it away.
Thank you, Gary, and thank you all so much for having me today. I have to tell you, I love Southwest Ranches. Every time I come here, I feel like I came home. And I have to tell you, when I come up, I almost want to walk in the door in the back there, because when I was in the legislature, Andy and the council was nice enough to let me have my office there, and it is really just wonderful. And I have to tell you, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you all, and also I want to commend you all for the great work that you are doing, because some of the numbers that I'm going to talk about tonight are some of the highest increases in values in the county. And what I think is pretty great about that, the reason they're so high is because Southwest Ranches is really a tremendous place to live. People are coming from all over the country. They're moving here, they're making it their home, and they're paying top dollar for properties. And I found when you don't have a whole lot of new construction and a whole lot of commercial, and your value increases significantly on residential, a lot of it is because of the great services the commission provides. It's just a really welcoming place. And so I really appreciate that. With that said, what I was hoping to talk about just briefly for any residents who are watching is how our office can help our Southwest Ranches community. I also want to talk about a great program we have called Owner Alert, designed to protect people from title fraud. And I just wanted to quickly also go through with you all just the numbers where Southwest Ranches is right now, because I know those are the numbers you're going to be utilizing when you set your millage rate on the value to determine the amount of money that you're going to bring in to provide services to the people of Southwest Ranches. For the residents, there are really a few main functions to our office. The first function is we determine the value of every piece of property in Broward County for tax purposes, whether it's residential, commercial, tangible personal property, or centrally assessed property, which are railroads. And the reason that's important is because when people pay their property taxes, the amount of taxes they pay is a relationship between the value of the property that we set and the tax rate set by the town council, the school board, the county commission, and all other taxing authorities. And the most important thing we want to do is make sure we get it right. And Broward County is a big place. More people live here than 13 states, the District of Columbia, and all U.S. territories except Puerto Rico. It's massive. And there are more parcels that we appraise than many states. And even though the few hundred employees of our office do a very, very good job and their assessments are very accurate, mistakes can occur, or maybe people have information that we don't have that can help us bring down the assessed value of their property. And let me give you an example. Today, there may be a resident from Southwest Ranches that goes on our website at bcpa.net, and they may click on property search. They can type in their name, their address, their folio number, whatever they want to put in to see their property record card. And they'll see the value of their property for tax purposes. And they'll call me tomorrow, and they'll say, Marty, I understand why you valued my property this way because all these other properties sold that were similar to mine for these amounts. But my property's different. It's dilapidated. There's water damage. There's something that makes it less valuable than those other comparable sales. And I'll say to them, well, show me what you got. And they can come to our office or we can come to them. We can go through it on the phone, and I'll look at their information, and it's information that we can use to bring down their market value, which could bring down their assessed value. It could also potentially bring down the amount they pay in property taxes. We'll always do that. Any resident can contact me by September 19th of this year to review their property so we can make sure that the value that they pay their taxes on is the fair market value and the fair value and not too high. So please, any resident, contact me at go to bcpa.net, check out your property. And if you have any concerns, give me a holler. The second thing that we do in our job, and this is what I love most about it, is we give tax-saving exemptions to people that qualify. And there are a lot of exemptions under Florida law that people qualify for. The most important one by far is the homestead exemption. If somebody lives here in Southwest Ranches and it's where they're registered to vote, if they don't vote, it's where their declaration of domiciled, where their car is registered to, if this is their primary residence, they get a homestead exemption. What that basically means, it takes $50,000 of value off the tax roll at the beginning, can save them possibly $800, $900, maybe $1,000 a year to start, but most importantly, it really helps them going forward because every single year after you have a homestead exemption, the value of your tax line cannot go up more than 3%. It is so very important, that cap. And it's very important right now in particular because you're going to see that property values in Southwest Ranches just this year alone, residential market values are going up on average about 25%. So you want to make sure you have that 3% cap in place. So if there's any resident of Southwest Ranches that lived in their home on January 1st of this year that hasn't filed for homestead exemption, you can do it all the way till September 19th of this year. Please call me at my office, email me, come down to us, we'll come to you, and we'll make sure that very important homestead cap is put into place. With that said, there are many other exemptions that people can qualify for. You have exemptions for seniors and veterans, for people who are visually impaired and widows and widowers, and all kinds of other exemptions. And I always tell everybody, again, go on our website at bcpa.net, click on exemptions, and if there's something you're not getting, contact me by September 19th so we can apply it so it'll be reflected in your tax bill. The other thing that we do in our job, and is very, very important as well, is we have a very aggressive fraud division that goes throughout the county every single day, and it cracks down on people who aren't playing by the rules. You know, if somebody's entitled to a tax-saving exemption, they should get it. They've earned it under the Constitution. Conversely, if they're doing something illegal by getting an exemption that they're fraudulently getting, they're not supposed to get, and they're knowingly getting that exemption, then that's not okay either. And our fraud division will find the person who is breaking the law. They'll take away the illegal exemption. We'll back tax them up to 10 years. We'll include a 50% penalty and 15% interest. It can be hefty, but it's hefty because the legislature has determined that it wants to deter people from cheating the system. Since I took office, actually my predecessor, who I love to death, I love everybody up here, but my favorite Southwest Ranches resident is Lori Parrish. I have to say that. Lori started our fraud division a long time ago. And since I took office, we've put about $3.5 billion back on the tax roll that wasn't on there before, which actually countywide this year alone will bring in another $65 million more this year than in 2017 because people are paying their fair share of taxes. And actually, we've been able to collect over the past number of years about $60 million and have returned that to the taxpayers as well. So I always tell this to everybody that lives in Broward County. Please don't cheat the system. Just do what's fair, do what's right, only get exemptions you're entitled to, because if you do anything to fraud the system and you knowingly frauded, the penalties can be very, very high, and it's just not worth it. The other thing I wanted to quickly talk about is something that I think is very important, and it's kind of a crusade of mine. You know, unfortunately, South Florida is the title fraud capital of the world. You have criminals, and what these criminals do, they'll go into the recording divisions for every single county, and they'll file fake deeds on people's properties. And the reason they can easily file those deeds is because the recording divisions have a ministerial duty. They have to accept whatever document is filed with them. So these criminals will go in there, they'll file fake deeds, and they'll take that document and they'll try to extort people for money or mortgage rent or even sell their property. And they do it all the time. And so about a year ago, we came up with a great program in our office. We spent no taxpayer dollars doing it, and it's free to the public, called Owner Alert. So if any resident of Southwest Ranches wants to go to our website at bcpa.net and click on Owner Alert, or just type in web.bcpa.net/Owner Alert, that page will come up. And when that page comes up, you can type in your name and you can type in your folio number, which you can easily grab from our website. And then also we ask you for your email address. If we have your email address on file, you're automatically verified. If we don't, we ask that you upload your Florida driver's license or Florida ID. If you have that, you're verified. If you don't have that, there are other ways to get verified as well. And then what will occur is if any document, legitimate or not, is filed changing ownership of your property, you'll be notified instantaneously so you can fight the fraud before the fraud occurs. It's a really great program. We've had about 180,000 Broward County property owners sign up so far, and my goal is to get every Broward County property owner to sign up because it's really there to protect their most important asset, which is their home. I also want to thank Southwest Ranches because you all have been so helpful, and Andy and others, in helping me get the word out to the Southwest Ranches community. We've had a lot of people at Southwest Ranches sign up, and the only reason we've been able to do that is because you all have been such a great partner with us. The other thing I wanted to quickly bring up, just for the residents, is lately we've been taking our fraud crackdown to another level. You know, the people that commit these crimes, that file these fake deeds, these are very, very sophisticated people, and they know exactly what they're doing. And sometimes they pick on the most vulnerable people in our community. So we've actually dedicated a portion of our fraud division to work with law enforcement to build cases against these people so that we could help put them in jail for a long time. And recently, we've actually been able to secure 2 convictions and an arrest recently. One conviction actually took place in the Southern District Federal Court of New York for people that stole millions of dollars worth of properties in both Broward County and New York. We assisted them, and we were able to secure a pretty significant conviction. We also recently helped the Southern District of Florida secure a conviction against a married couple for millions of dollars of properties that they stole in Broward County as well. And recently we worked with the Broward Sheriff's Office to help arrest 2 people who stole a few homes in Cooper City. And we also recently were able to get the city of Fort Lauderdale to put new charges on them because we actually found out that not only did they do that, but they also were able to figure out a way to steal a home from a 68-year-old disabled woman who, that they defrauded. And so those charges have been filed against them as well. And so that's going to be a big criminal case that's going to be coming up pretty soon. And I'm very proud that we're doing that because I want every one of these criminals to know that they're not welcome in Broward County. And if they try to do it here, we're going to work very closely with law enforcement to put them in jail for a very long time. With that said, here are the numbers for Southwest Ranches. And Southwest Ranches is actually doing exceptionally well when it comes to its values. And I have to tell you, the value increases in Southwest Ranches and the taxable value increase is actually higher, I believe, than every other municipality within Broward County at this time. And that doesn't generally happen, because you have significant amounts of new construction, for example, in Fort Lauderdale. I think they had $1.7 billion of new construction out of the tax roll alone. You have cities like Hollywood and others that have these massive hotels that generate humongous amounts of revenue. And Southwest Ranches, as you know, doesn't have a whole lot of commercial. You have a lot of ag properties, but people are paying significant amounts of money for the current residential properties, and that is just driving the market here, which is pretty incredible. So to give you an idea, in 2021, if you sold all the residential and commercial market property on the open market, in 2021 you would have got right about $2.61 billion. Fast forward to 2022, it increased 23.54% to about $3.227 billion. That's a huge increase in market value. Now, if you look at the taxable value, that's the number that we just released to you all. That is the number that you're going to be utilizing when you set your millage rate to determine the amount of money that you need to provide great services to the people of Southwest Ranches. In 2021, the taxable value for Southwest Ranches was right about $1.67 billion. Fast forward to 2022, there's been a 14.4% increase in taxable value to about $1.914 billion. And so to give you an idea, if you keep your millage rate the same at 4.25, then your additional revenue will be right about $1,023,869 more this year than last year. Now, something that's very important to note for the people of Southwest Ranches is that the majority of that increase is not being paid for by the majority of the people that live here, because the majority of the people that live here are homesteaded property owners, and the value that they're taxed on cannot go up more than 3%. It's really being driven by new homes and new construction being built, but more specifically by lots of people moving in and paying top dollar for properties. That's really what's driving these value increases. You've had about $47,806,140 of new taxable value added to the tax roll. That's new construction, mostly single-family homes. You have 2,109 homestead exemptions here in Southwest Ranches. You have 50 low-income seniors who receive a low-income senior exemption. You also have 166 widows and widowers who are entitled to a small exemption. And one number that I really love is you have 14 100% totally permanently disabled veterans. Those American heroes pay no property taxes to Southwest Ranches, the county, or any taxing authority, and they've made Southwest Ranches their home. You also have 2 totally permanently disabled first responder American heroes who have made Southwest Ranches their home as well. You had 71 portability applications granted last year, for this year. That took about $8 million off the tax roll. Now, ag properties I thought were very interesting this year. In 2021, you had 491 agricultural properties, and that took about $171 million off the tax roll. Fast forward to 2022, there's actually been a decline in ag properties. A lot of those ag properties actually sold to people, and so they're no longer ag. And now you have 444 ag properties, about 50 less, and now it takes about $157 million off the tax roll. There are 2,261 single-family homes in Southwest Ranches. The average market value for a single-family home right now is right about $1,047,000. To put that in perspective, for the county, it's about $500,000 is the average market value. So Southwest Ranch is about double of the county as a whole. And the average taxable value is about $663,000. And the reason there's such a big difference there between the market value and the taxable value is because, as you know, a lot of people, they come to Southwest Ranches, they don't want to leave because it is a great place to live. They've been here for a very, very long time. And as a result of that cap we spoke about, their assessed value is much lower than what their market value is. And the biggest, of course, new additions added to taxable value were new single-family homes. You had one, for example, for $3 million, and then you had about 4 or 5 for $2 million or more, and you had many other single-family homes that were also added. With that said, I can go on and on forever. I just appreciate so much y'all having me today. And again, I don't know if she's watching, but I do want to give another big shout-out to my mentor, the greatest Southwest Ranches resident on the face of the earth, Lori Parrish, who I just love to death. But with that said, is there any questions I can answer of anybody? I just appreciate you all and the service that you all give to the people of Southwest Ranches.
I got to hand it to you, Marty. Your numbers are very impressive. You can rattle them right off, and it's very, very impressive on that.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
by the way, just so you know, amongst ourselves, we call you Mr. Broward.
Oh, thank you.
I just wanted to let you know that.
That makes me feel so good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like such a compliment. Thank you so much, Gary. I
You guys,
appreciate that.
your department does a fantastic job, and we like it. And,
Thank you.
You know, very consumer friendly, and I've heard nothing but good things.
Thank you so much.
I don't know if the rest of the council has any comments. If you want to make.
Yeah, just a request.
Sure.
The way you rattled off those numbers.
I can get them to you.
swiftly, I can't write fast enough. So if you could summarize them and put them in a note
Absolutely.
to Andy and he can get them out to the rest of us, that'd be fantastic.
Absolutely.
Just great numbers in there.
Oh, thank you so much, Bob. And I've had about 5 cups of coffee, 2 Red Bulls, and a Diet Coke, so I'm wired. But I will get it right on over to you.
Next time you come, I'll match you and then I'll take my own notes.
Absolutely. I definitely will. I will. Hey, Scott, are you here? Would you be able to get those over to Andy and he can
Great.
distribute to the council? Awesome.
Great, thank you.
Oh, thank you
very
so much,
Marty.
Bob. I really appreciate it. Oh.
Marty, real quick question. How old do you have to be to get the senior discount?
So
I'm
that-
getting close.
So you're far from that, and with all that hair, you got to be like in your 30s, to be honest with you. But so
Marty, come on.
It's so
I'm
I'll
just-
the senior discount to me is so very important.
Yeah, they are.
It's
Right.
income based, and I'll tell you how anybody can qualify. So there are a few different senior discounts that people can get. The one that's the most common one is called the low-income senior exemption, and it basically means if somebody is 65 years of age or over, if last year they made under $32,561, and if they don't file income taxes, Social Security doesn't count. If they do file income taxes, they have to look at their adjusted gross income tax line of their income tax statement. If it's under that number, they basically get another homestead exemption on top of the one that they currently get. It's really important, and for me, it's my favorite exemption. We have about, I think if I remember, about 30,000 Broward County seniors who currently qualify for it. And I love that exemption because we have 2 million people that live here. About a third of our population are seniors. And it's my understanding that our most impoverished portion of our population on whole are seniors. And I always believe if you can help a senior save a little bit more money that's struggling, they can have a little better of a life. So I love that exemption. And then there's another exemption as well that would apply to the county portion of the tax bill. And that's called the long-term senior exemption. It basically means if you meet all those criteria, but you've been in your home for 25 years or more, and the value of your home is under $250,000, then you would be fully exempt from the county portion of the tax bill. So I hope that answered the question, Jim.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
no, that's good. I just wasn't sure how old I had to be.
Oh, you have a long way to go.
Okay.
And if I could mention a couple other things kind of along those lines, if it's okay. One thing I wanted to bring up, because I think it's very important. Does Michael Gottlieb represent a portion of Southwest Ranches? He may not.
No.
So he has Davey. He's a great state representative and a great friend. And this year he passed an amazing increase that I think is really going to benefit people, not this year, but next year. The widow's exemption is, there are thousands of people in Broward County that have the widow's exemption. Here you actually have about 166 widows that have that exemption, but it's a very small exemption. It was created in 1969, and it took $500 of value off the tax roll. Now that's not $500 in tax saving, that's just value. It only equates to about $9 in tax savings a year. It's really very minimal. And so every single year, well, for a number of years, people have filed bills to try to increase it. Nobody's been successful. This year, Representative Gottlieb filed a bill to increase it to $5,000 of value. He worked with everybody, Democrats, Republicans, and in a bipartisan way, unanimously, they actually passed an increase to where now it will be $5,000 of value beginning next year. So instead of $9, it's another about $100 of tax savings to residents, and I think it's a great thing. And the other thing I wanted to quickly mention was there are 2 other, I think, significant pieces of legislation legislation that could help people. One, I think, is great. Another one of our Broward County State Representative Marie Woodson, she represents a lot of Pembroke Pines, and she represents Miramar, and she may have a portion of Southwest Ranches, I'm not quite sure. But she passed a very good bill that fixed an inequity in the system. So currently, the date that we determine the value of property is January 1st. So whatever your property looked like on January 1st of that year, your tax bill coming in November is going to be whatever the property looked like on January 1st. So what has happened in the past is January 1st, your property looks great. Then all of a sudden, February comes or June comes, and something will destroy your property. Well, you could have your entire property could be destroyed, but your November tax bill will still reflect what it looked like on January 1st. And truthfully, she wanted to, this really came to light after the tragedy that happened in Surfside. They were trying to figure out how can they help the people that were there and their estates. And so she filed a great bill that Democrats and Republicans, everybody voted for unanimously. The governor signed it into law in the tax package. And it basically is called an abatement bill. And what it does, if anybody's home was destroyed after January 1st, they can apply to the property appraiser for an abatement of property taxes, and so their tax bill will only reflect the amount of time that the property was actually utilized for its intended purpose. It has to be a catastrophe that destroys it, and so let's say, for example, the property is destroyed in June, their tax bill for the building will only reflect up to that 6 months. The next 6 months, they would not pay taxes on that building. I think it is a great bill. And the other thing that I just wanted to quickly bring up is a proposed constitutional amendment that's going to be on the ballot in November that I am fully supportive of. I was very proud of our Florida legislature for in a unanimous way by putting it on the ballot. They've all voted for it. And what it does is it actually provides, if it passes, another property tax exemption, another homestead exemption to current teachers, firefighters, police officers, active members of the military, and social workers. It'll really help, I think, a number of different people that we really want to keep here so they can continue to live here and not leave here. And so I'm hoping that that passes. So I hope that every resident of Southwest Ranch just takes a look at it and looks at the verbiage and the wording of that. And I hope that they, and so they can go vote in November, but I'm fully in support of it. With that said, I didn't mean to go on a tangent, but I wanted to bring those up.
Just a quick question about the, I guess the category of an uninhabitable home.
Mm-hmm.
How would one, I mean, hurricane season is on us. If that happens, where something comes through and a home is destroyed, how does the person reduce their taxes based on the event?
That's a great question. So the home, we actually defined it. The home has to be uninhabitable, and uninhabitable is defined within the statute. Basically, you can't live in it. It can't be utilized for its intended purpose. It has to be almost like a condemned property, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And what we will do is, and what it requires us to do, is if somebody does apply for an abatement of their property taxes as a result of that, then we would work with the city that they live in or the town they live in and with their code enforcement first to make sure that the property is uninhabitable as defined by statute. And then if it is, then there's a process for them to apply to our office for that abatement.
Okay.
And we're still waiting, though, for the Department of Revenue to give us the specific requirements on how to do it. So God forbid it happens to somebody here in Southwest Ranches, we would work closely, with Andy and the city staff and code enforcement and your building inspectors and others to make a determination on it.
Is it possible to use that as well if a home is destroyed by fire?
Yes.
Okay.
If it's by catastrophe, absolutely.
Okay.
Any type of catastrophe would be good. What can't happen is somebody can't say, I'm knocking down the home and I'm building another home. That way, but it has to be done by catastrophe.
Perfect.
Definitely. So anything like that, that's not
Thank you.
intended. Oh, thank you very much, Bob. I appreciate that. Excellent. Well, you all are awesome. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, Marty, I just want to thank you for coming out. As I told you earlier, you're welcome anytime. It's always good to see you, especially when you bring us good news.
Oh.
Russell, we need to work on a playback option on the video at half speed so people can keep up with it.
I know. It's yeah, I'm kind of like the micro machine guy. Like, zoom. I have to tell you, I love Andy. Well, one you all have. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all so much for your staff. We work with all 31 cities and the staff for every city very closely, and we have to because permits need to be sent to us. We need to figure out what value goes on the tax roll, and I have to tell you, Andy and the staff in Southwest Ranches is just incredible, so easy to work with. And I love Andy in particular because I have to tell you, years ago when I was running for the county commission, I believe you lived in Lauderhill. And I banged on his door, never met him before, and he was the nicest guy. You know, I have no idea if he was going to vote for me, but he was very nice to me. You know what I mean? And
I opened the door and you were surprised I knew who you were.
you did, and I felt so good.
But we had a great conversation.
I did, and actually, he's such a good guy, and I just appreciate that. I never forgot that. And I can definitely tell you, I believe that the town of Southwest Ranches is so well served with Andy as your administrator. And of course, you guys have wonderful attorneys, without a doubt. Please tell Keith I said hi. With that, I tend to live a little vicariously through
He's
Keith,
watching us.
It's true. You know, I see what he does on Facebook. I'm like, that's awesome. But with that said, I just want to thank you for having me. You guys are awesome. And if there's anything I could ever do, call me, email me anytime. Thank you all for having me today. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, we
Bye,
appreciate it.
everybody.
Thank you, Marty.
Thank you.
Some really wonderful information we just got there, and some information that we didn't know existed that can help out in the future.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda, public comment. Do we have any public comment? No public comment. Okay. I'll give it one last try. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, okay, we'll move on to board reports. Are there any board reports? Okay, seeing no board reports, so we're doing lightning rounds here. We'll go into council member comments. Jim, I understand
Vice
you have
Mayor.
good news for us.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, if you would, I'll go first this time. I'll steal your thunder because you usually go first.
Absolutely.
But I would like to say good evening to the council and to staff. Good evening to residents, and thank everybody for attending and those that are on YouTube. Most of y'all remember that during my campaign, I spoke to a number of people all over Southwest Ranches. And what I heard was there was a big problem with speeding, cut-through traffic, and increase in crime. So for the past year and a half, I worked real hard with the town administrator and talking to council. And in December and January, our town council passed a resolution that created the Safety and Traffic Committee for a 6-month period. Each council member appointed a resident from their area to sit on the committee, and we got started in February. We didn't have a meeting in January, but we did get started in February. In February, the committee, this committee, they jumped right in. I was really impressed with the group of people and how knowledgeable they were, and started addressing the issues not only in their area, but in the whole town. The second meeting, the Davie Police Chief showed up. Andy invited the Chief of Police from the Davie Department, along with a number of other officers, and we asked a ton of questions, and I got a ton of answers from them. And we're going to be able to work closely with the department to do some of these changes we're looking to do. I was really thrilled about that. The third meeting was just an all-around good discussion again about all the previous ideas, and they talked, and no fussing, no fighting. Everybody seemed to get along. The fourth meeting, the committee was given the task by Andy to choose their 5 most important issues to them that they could bring forward, for consideration. And the fifth meeting, this last meeting we just had this month, the group came back with their top 5 recommendations, all put together into one. And these are what they're going to present to the council for their consideration. And I'd like to go through those real quick. First of all, they'd like to purchase 2 additional handheld laser guns. That's the same gun that we currently use. And the officers that use it just absolutely love it. It's a great tool for us to slow traffic down. Like to buy 2 speed trailers, and these are the trailers you see out on the road sometime at different areas that show you how fast you're going. And if you're going over the speed limit, it flashes. We're looking at one that doesn't flash just yellow, but flashes blue and red to get their attention, make them think it's the police department that's sitting there. They'd like to purchase 30 new Eagle Eye on Crime signs. I know you see those around town. I have 3 or 4 in my district there that I put up in there. I see them in Sunshine Ranches, other places. And that's to let the people know that we are keeping an eye on them. We have a bunch of cameras going up that we can keep an eye on the area and see what's happening. Want to purchase signs that tell the people that if you speed in this town, radar will get you. So it's these signs that you see in other towns that say the speed and radar enforced. And last, this was a thing that most of the committee people wanted. It was additional traffic enforcement. And what they are looking to do is to put 2 officers, 3 hours a day, 4 days per month for 12 months out in the hot spots all over town. And we have a number of hot spots all over town. And by doing this, if they write enough tickets, it'll slow people down. I mean, I don't know how many tickets you want to get in your pocket before you slow down, but it will slow people down. And that revenue, part of that revenue from those tickets come back to town. I don't know exactly how much, and I'm sure it depends on how much the ticket was written for, but that'll come back to the town. And these requests that I'm asking for, I know sound high in cost, but be about $53,000. So what I'm asking tonight is I'd really like the council to look hard at funding these recommendations in our next upcoming budget. I'd really like for the council to, see if we can't find a way to fund these. And in closing, I'd like to recognize and thank the committee, Mr. Walt Butler, Mr. Roland Gendell, Ed Gonzalez, and Mr. Luis Rodriguez for their recommendations. And Ms. Dania Dehan, she was on the board at the beginning but had to step aside because of family issues. And I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to give a special thanks to our town administrator, Andy Burns, for being instrumental in putting all this together, for coordinating each and every minute. And Andy also graciously volunteered to be the secretary because nobody else wanted to be. So he did all the recording and all the minutes and stuff. But I thank you very much for that, Andy, and I thank the council for allowing this to take place. And Mr. Mayor, you have it back. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to try David?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, David, do you have any comments you'd like to make? I hope you're feeling better.
Very short comments. First of all, to explain to the public and those in YouTube land, the reason I'm not there is I am still, I've been tested positive for COVID, and I'm still contagious. So it was a safety issue that I decided to stay at home, not exposed to anybody else. I've actually been kind of penned up here at home, getting a little cabin fever here. Anyway, want to just remind everybody we had a big storm last weekend, and lots of rain. Well, as a result of all of this, Broward County has announced that they're upping their mosquito control enforcement. They pointed out on their release that, first of all, the new coronavirus is not passable by mosquitoes. It's a aerial virus. It's not by blood. So everybody take a little breath with that one. However, yellow fever can be passed by mosquitoes, dengue fever by mosquitoes, West Nile virus, even Zika. Those are just a few of the viruses that can be spread by mosquitoes. Now, in our town, we have a lot of places where we have buckets, cans, cups, standing water. Broward County is urging everybody to get out and try to dump this out, get mosquito dunks, things to help reduce the mosquitoes, because in the next month we're going to be getting a lot of mosquitoes. So with everybody taking an effort, we can take a bite out of the severity of the mosquito season, no pun intended. Last, a lot of people have spoken with me on the New Testament property and Rural Ranches Plus. I have not made a decision. My goal is to preserve a less dense housing that's a primary feature of that's the primary concern that I have. And I want to make sure we have a sufficient space for a barn on each parcel, and that we have horse trails. Anybody wants to reach out to me and give me their opinion, I'm more than happy to weigh it. I'm getting calls and texts from people all over the town, so it's not just Sunshine Ranches. Just when the time comes, that'll probably be when I make my decision. So with that in mind, Mr. Vice Mayor, I will wrap it up. Turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, David, and I hope you feel better. Councilman Hartman.
Thank you, Gary. You feel better, David. This is your second time, and you're one of about 15 people that I know have come down with it in the last week or so. We have a friend in Sweden who is stuck there for an extra week and a half, and we have a friend in France, family friends that just went over. They picked it up, and they've got to quarantine before they come back as well, so it looks like it's back now. There's a couple of things I wanted to bring up this evening. One came out of the last month's public safety meeting. That's the meeting Jim was talking about earlier that he put together for the last 6 months. It's been great. We had the Davie PD visit the committee to discuss things that they see that they need help on that make sense from a policing perspective. And we have a relatively unique situation in Southwest Ranches that fortunately we share with Davie. I mean, we have lots of livestock here. We have horses, we have cows, we have goats, chickens, you name it, emus even. But they were saying that, they tend to animals when they get out. If it's goats, they can usually just shoo them back in. When it's cattle, they've got a couple of people they can call that'll round up the cattle and push them back through the fence. Sometimes the owners are away, so if you plan on going away, make sure one of your neighbors knows that if your livestock gets out, just call the police or if they can tend to it. But one of the things they brought up, it's kind of interesting, again, uniqueness of Southwest Ranches. Fortunately, Davie PD or RPD, as well as theirs, a lot of these folks, as they're coming up through the ranks in Davie and working their way up to a seniority level that gets them out here, they've already dealt with horses, cows, pigs, sheep, etc. So if a horse gets out, they're very happy just to clip a lead line on, and assuming the horse has got a halter or a bridle on, and just bring it on back. Unfortunately, they've got to call one of their peer police officers in Davie to bring it out because they don't have enough to carry around in their cars. So they asked if we could somehow get them, use halters and lead lines. And I wish I would have known this a couple of years ago because it seems almost every time my daughter wanted to compete, there was a new lead line in Dad's future. We were heading to Griff's. So we had a lot of them. But if you have any used tack, I don't mean saddles, mostly, like I said, bridle, halter, and lead lines. If you could bring them on down to Town Hall and donate them, they would go out to the Davie PD officers, and then they could keep them in their trunk. And if we get enough of them, each of them can keep them in the trunk. But at least if we had a few, there's generally 2 or 3 police officers per shift. They could share it. So then they'd only have to come from one side of town to the other instead of possibly Davie Town Hall or further east to get a lead line out here. So I'm going to put something in the newsletter concerning this because if we can help them on simple things like that. And I certainly support more lasers. They love their laser. That was an extensive conversation. But just to tie a knot on the lead lines and halters, if you've got old used, if your kids got out of it, if you got out of riding and you've got some equipment that you probably will never use again, bring it on down to Town Hall to the front desk and we'll be very happy to take it off your hands and put it to good use. Concerning, I'm sorry I didn't make the meeting last night, Jim. I've really enjoyed them because all the committee members are characters all by themselves.
They are.
And so they're very interesting meetings, but also I definitely wanted to support, the handheld lasers that Jim had brought up. I think we have 2 out in the field right now, 1 out in the field right now. And there's a significant difference between radar and lasers for police activities. When they pull the trigger on a radar gun, it takes time for the gun to energize, and then it puts out a very random pattern. they get back the information. The radar gun interprets which car and gives them information. But that delay, sometimes somebody will move positions and the situation can change very quickly. With lasers, they point them at the car. It's the only car it hits. It reflects it back off of the shiny surfaces on the car, and they have the exact speed limit and the speed of the vehicle, and they know they have the details they need to write an effective ticket. So it isn't so much the writing tickets. I don't care if they stand out there with their laser gun all day long and don't write a ticket if everybody slows down. This is about deterrence, folks, not drumming up revenue for the town. I live on a private road, and the speed limit, like everywhere else in town, is 25. I could tell you the neighbors that do 60 down our street every time they're coming and going from work, and being a council member, I've flagged them down and said, hey, if you would slow down, you might kill somebody's kid or dog or cat, or what if a horse steps out in front of you? 'Cause we have them on my street. But nothing I can say gets them to slow down, but it's really funny. Jim tells a story about a guy over in his area who, the first one he was belligerent, the second one a little less belligerent, the third one he was handing the cop his license, promising never to do it again. So, you get hit. These tickets aren't cheap. The last time I got a speeding ticket was a long time ago, and it was about $285 for being 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. It only gets more expensive as the faster you go. So just be aware. Like I said, Jim, I totally support it. And I did want to, since I wasn't there last night, I like the idea of additional traffic enforcement. I know this will come back, but I'm assuming these folks, when they're working those shifts that you had mentioned, our regular day VPD will still be doing traffic enforcement as well. We won't be letting them off the hook.
Right. This is an extra detail, Bob, yes. Right,
Okay.
extra detail, yes.
So this would be in addition to the police we have
Yes,
out there,
yes.
and our folks may be at one end of town and they're at the other end of town, and we're catching twice the bad guys.
And Bob, this will be moved around. I mean, there's a number of hot spots across town, and, they're constantly moving. They'll be moving around. They're not going to sit in one particular place.
Yeah. Today they had the Metropolitan Planning Organization meeting, which I am the town's representative. The MPO, as it's called, is the organization that basically funds all the road improvements for county and state roads throughout. And the main reason I wanted to bring it up is if you think there's more traffic since COVID ended, or since COVID started, I should say, when things were normal once upon a time, your feelings are exactly right. The MPO works with Florida Department of Transportation and the county and the cities that have their own public works departments, and they're seeing a rise in traffic across the entire county right now. So, I know lots of people are still working from home, but what they were suggesting, because they don't have hard data on it, is Broward County has expanded pretty dramatically in terms of the additional residents here. They were batting around numbers between 10 and 15%. So our county population grew 10 to 15% during the pandemic because people that realized they could work from Florida instead of Manhattan and still get the same job done and be getting a suntan in December moved down here. So we've dramatically increased our population, which of course contributes to traffic. And I noticed it. I mean, I see the lights over here on Griffin Road, either at Weston or Bonaventure, the ones out west. And it used to be you sit there for 2 or 3 cycles of the light if it was really bad. And now I sat through 5 when I had to make it to a meeting here last week. Actually, I was going up to Publix up there on Weston Road. 5 lights to make the turn. It was shocking. It's gotten a lot worse. So you're not crazy. You're not imagining it. Our traffic has gotten substantially worse in Broward County. The MPO is now starting to look finally at alternatives other than cars. How many of you know that when they built I-75, it was supposed to have railway down the middle? That's why we have the wide median there. Of course, the answer to when you get a bunch of highway engineers together, they want to build roads. Well, they're starting to look at other things because I-95 is maxed out. Within the next 5 years, they're going to add 4 more lanes to the turnpike. So then what? So they're trying to come up with other modes of transportation that don't include 4 wheels or more. And, they're talking about light rail, they're talking about larger, more economical bus systems that can move much faster. Because if you try driving downtown Fort Lauderdale, like I did 2 Saturdays ago, I was shocked at how bad the traffic was on 17th Street. It was like rush hour, and it was a Saturday afternoon. So, and it's only going to get worse because Fort Lauderdale hasn't seen a high rise they didn't want to approve. So they're just piling in the people over there as well. So anyway, that's the MPO update for this meeting. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Hartman. I have a few announcements and some stuff I would like to talk about. First, the announcements, just so everybody knows. Unfortunately, the DMV Flowmobile has been canceled for this month. It was June 22nd, and that's and we don't know what the date is going to be for July. So just want to make sure everybody understands that. It's been canceled for this month. The Broward County Property Appraiser is going to be here on June 16th from 10 to 12. That's Marty Carey, who was just here. His staff will be here for any questions. We have hazmat at the barn on July 9th from 8 to 2 with shredding and prescription drug drop-off. So that's coming up soon. On June 10th, which is tomorrow, we're having a tree planting at 4 p.m. out at the barn in honor of Birdie Night. And then June 11th, we have the bingo at the barn. It's $25, which includes dinner. It starts at 7. Tickets are still available. See December or the front desk to get those. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think there's, what's the limit, 120? Something like that. And you get dinner and you get to have some fun and see your neighbors and really enjoy a memorable evening. So I just want to put that out. David, I hope you feel better. Speedy recovery. And I just want to mention to you that your DRW magazine article on the quasi-judicial process is excellent. We should probably frame it and give it to every new council member and every new staff member so that they understand what that is at some point. It was well written, and I really appreciate it. So I just wanted to mention that.
Hard to do it. It was a big project.
Yeah, and it was very concise, and you put it in layman's terms, which, even people like me can understand. So I really liked it.
Thank you.
I really liked it. In fact, I have it tacked up on my bulletin board at home, just as a reminder.
Right.
But I did put my picture over yours, so just want to mention that. Okay, so just want a reminder, next week is the qualifying for the District 1 and District 2 council seats coming up for the new election. And I just want to make a general statement right now. I'm planning on, if the property owner is available and willing to meet with me on the 40-acre plot over here on Hancock Road. I'm willing to meet with him when I get back in town in July. I understand it's under contract, or with the original property owner. I'll be more than happy to meet with him and here at Town Hall and discuss their views and my visions when I get back in July. So I just want to get that on the record, prior to everything else. We're going to have a busy week next week, and it's going to be a busy summer with a lot of people coming and going. So we've got a council in flux, going everywhere. The last item I have, I need to give the gavel to the former Vice Mayor, Bob.
Oh. Okay.
This deals, the reason I want to do this is I'm going to probably make a motion.
Okay.
And this deals with Jim's committee that he did such a great job with. Luis Rodriguez, Ed Gonzalez, Walter Butler, Roland Grindle, and Diane D. Hayes. They came up with an outstanding program and a plan of attack. And we have a budget that we want to put into the budget for $53,000 for all this equipment. The only trouble with the budget is we're going to have to wait until October to make that work. I have an alternative that's going to make everybody's day. We have $60,000 in the fraud fund that's available to use, and I want to pay for that now, which means if we approve it tonight, Andy can start purchasing the lasers tomorrow, the signs, the trailers, they can do everything on that by starting tomorrow. We don't have to wait 6 months. So I'd like to make a motion that we pay for this through the fraud account, which has the money available, and we put a cap on it of $60,000. Whatever they don't use, they put back. And I know Andy's got his hand up.
Just to clarify, you said the fraud account, you're talking about the liens that have been collected.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're on the same page. Thank you.
yeah, the actual account has a lot more than $60,000 in it. I don't want to get into the exact numbers, but but I figured 60 is a good working number. And so anyway, that's my motion, and I would appreciate a second.
Gary, I would be absolutely thrilled to second that. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Any council discussion before we go forward? David, do you have anything you want to say?
Gary,
Public comment?
Which fund is this?
I'm sorry?
Which fund?
The lien fund.
The liens, okay.
Yeah.
For the properties that had fines against them and.
Right, the fines, comes out of fines and all that.
Thank you, right.
Public
Okay.
comment.
Yeah, I asked. Any public comment? Okay, none seen, so, anything else from the council? All right.
Councilmember Kaczynski?
David, are you there?
I can hang up and
All right.
call him back.
Up, there he is.
There you are. Okay. Do you have anything to say?
No, I support it 100%.
Good, okay. All right, so then, Deborah, would you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Albritton?
Absolutely.
Councilmember Hartman?
With pleasure.
Councilmember Kaczynski?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jablonski?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right. We can start going.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
If you'd like to pass the gavel back.
No. I didn't get to use it.
I'll get it.
All right. I thought I got
Okay.
at least one use out of that.
Huh?
I thought I got at least one use, so.
Okay, so that's great. We've got that accomplished, and I'm real happy that everybody approved that. It went through unanimously, and we can implement the traffic safety program immediately, which is very desirable. That includes the road patrols and the whatnot. So, and that's all I have in my comments. I mean, double check my list. Nope, that's it. That's all I've got.
Gary, there was one other comment I neglected to make during mine.
Go ahead.
I listed on the list, yeah. So, we've been through, I don't know, it's probably 6-7 years worth of TISDOR projects. That's our resurfacing project. And we've had a lot of challenges, almost every one of them. I mean, there are, residents or some residents, and they can live right next door to each other, love what we've done, and others just have, a list of issues. Newell has come up with a number of bullet points that he felt may help us be more successful at it. Some of the challenge, I believe, is communications to the public, and before and after we let the project. So, he recommends that we have a workshop with the residents before we actually let the contract, because once we send it out for bid, we're kind of locked in on whatever the engineering team has specified. So the thinking is, let's inform the community and notify them properly so that they can come and provide feedback. Then, once the engineer works with, gets the bids out based on the feedback from the residents and obviously the engineering requirements, then we would, of course, we have to let the contract with the vote here, so it would come before us. So that would be the point where the town engineer would articulate what the project looks like, perhaps highlight resident input on it, and we vote on it or make whatever changes are necessary and vote on it. And I think you can never under-communicate when it comes to public projects. So I support this. Now, Newell also did put in some ideas on swales and things like that. Personally, I have a challenge doing that, having worked with PEs for a long time. I mean, I'd rather they do their job. If we don't like something, we can discuss it with them and make recommendations. But at the end of the day, their engineering seal of approval have got to go on the work product that's going to be sent out. So I've spoken to Keith. Keith is drafting up a resolution to address these items, and we can do a resolution or an ordinance. I think we both agree that this is more of a resolution so that we make policy for the engineering team and the administration to follow. So I don't know when we'll see it next, but I spent time with Newell on this last week and with Keith on it earlier, Monday it was. So when he gets the draft together, once it's ready, we'll circulate and it'll be part of the agenda. But I wanted to give you guys a heads up that that's coming.
Okay, so basically what you're talking about is the town having, and I may be using the wrong word.
Sure.
A charrette
That's the word I always use, but yeah,
Yeah,
charrette,
something like
design
that.
charrette
on
beforehand.
each TISDOR project.
Yeah,
Right, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
It can't hurt,
yeah.
Well,
the other part is we're giving the public two opportunities to come out and get acquainted with what we're about to do with their front yard. And if they don't show up for the workshop and can't provide feedback, they're certainly willing to come and hear about it and possibly make, positive recommendations when we deliberate that particular contract. But then, two strikes, two opportunities to hear it from us and the engineer should be enough. If people still have concerns, they'll pick up the phone and call us. But I think I'm trying to, do the right thing here, I guess, and improve communications.
yeah, anything that, I agree, anything to improve communications,
Yeah.
on these big projects will
Yeah.
definitely be a factor.
Thank you for indulging me with a few more minutes.
Absolutely not a problem at all. Legal comments.
No legal comments tonight, thank you.
Well, that was quick. Okay. Administration comments. I know Andy's got something.
I have the same report as legal.
Oh,
I'm good. Thank you.
okay. Moving right along here. Our reading of, second reading of an ordinance. Deborah, rock and roll.
This is an ordinance of the Town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, submitting to referendum amendments to the town's charter, proposing the following amendments to be considered on the November 1st, 2022 general election ballot. To amend Article 2, Town Council Section 2.04, to amend the residency requirement for the town's mayor, to amend Article 2, Town Council Section 206C, to clarify how town council vacancies are filled, and to amend Article 7, Charter Amendments, Section 7.03, to amend a charter review committee every 10 years following the publication of the census, directing the town clerk to provide for a notice of advertisement of the referendum election to be published in accordance with the State of Florida Election Code, submitting the referendum to the qualified voters of the town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, for the 2022 general election, providing that such referendum, if adopted, shall become effective as provided by law, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
We need a second.
Second.
So, okay, it's been second. Council discussion. I've got a few things, but I'll wait to the end on
Okay.
this.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I spoke on this the last time that it was read, and I personally am still not in favor of this. I don't see what this accomplishes, part of it in particular to where when a council member resigns or passes away, that if the council cannot come to a decision on replacing them in 90 days, my feeling is that it really and truly should go back to the residents who elect. And if it costs the town $20,000 for an election, this is not something I feel that's going to happen on a yearly basis or every 5 years or so. This has happened once to us in 23 years. So the idea of withholding salary or a stipend or whatever you want to call it from the council members. It's kind of like taking a cookie away from a kid at the dinner table because he didn't eat his dinner. It makes no sense to me. I come onto this to do the best I could do for the town. I enjoy what I do. I've also volunteered for a number of other boards across the town with the Broward League of Cities and the Broward Water Board. I do everything I can, and I think most of you all know, to attend every homeowners association meeting, every council meeting that's here, I'm here. Every board meeting, I'm here. And that's a lot of traveling for me. That's a lot of my time, personal time that I give up. That stipend helps. Believe me, it helps with the gas and everything like that. But to take it away from a council member just because you say that we can't come up in 90 days and choose somebody, I think is a little, I'm going to say foolish. So, you know, I really would rather come up with an idea to where if we don't, we turn it over to the Broward County Election Department, and at their earliest convenience, and of course, we'd stay on top of them to make them do it, but I think it'd be up to the general public to elect them.
Bob?
Jim, let me just bring something to your attention. This has actually happened twice. Johnny Dollar passed away. I forget how far he was into office. And Tammy Dollar, was Tammy appointed? Yeah.
No.
Who was appointed? I don't recall.
Nobody was appointed.
Nobody was, so the
We
council
went
sat
to
open.
special election.
Yeah, yeah. Jim, I hear what you're saying. The challenge with special election is, we were told last time we can't do it. So this fixes that problem. And it's not about you or me.
But Bob, how does that fix the problem? I mean, if you've got, and I didn't mean to interrupt, pardon me, but you've got two people and they're butting heads, and there's no, how is taking somebody's salary away going to change my mind if I don't like Tom or Bill or Joe? How is that going to change my mind and make me vote for someone that I don't particularly care for by taking my salary? What does that honest and truly approve, instead of letting the people vote for it? I mean, I just don't understand it. I'm sorry. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I lost my train.
I'm sorry. You said that Johnny Dollar passed away and
Yeah.
his wife took over.
Would a reasonable compromise be give us 90 days, and if not, then we start looking at a special election?
I have some few thoughts on it I can
Okay.
input. But first, David, do you have any thoughts you want to bring in?
My thoughts, and thank you, Vice Mayor, my thoughts concern the process that I would think more better codified in ordinance, not in the charter. And that was my idea, and I'll just go past once we get through this.
Okay, well, it's in the charter now.
Yeah, I was just saying, can I ask Richard a question about that?
Yeah.
Richard, can we really write language in an ordinance that would supersede our charter in terms of how we have to handle replacing a council member or the mayor?
I don't believe you can do that. I mean, it's in the charter. The charters are.
Vice
charter
Mayor,
trumps
may I
the
jump in?
ordinance.
And I don't mean to speak for Councilmember
Sure.
Kaczynski, but
Recognizing he's on the phone, and so there's a little communication delay or problem. He and I spoke about it earlier, and I think to clarify his point, he was talking about the replacement process, how that balloting or discussion would be held to fill that slot, which is something that the council could determine the policy that you would use to fill the slot, as opposed to memorializing that in the charter. Council member, did I summarize that accurately?
Certainly, but as for the first time ever, I believe it's ever happened, and you does speak a little closer into the microphone. I don't think anybody's ever told Andy to do that.
Gary does all the time.
I was almost choking on it, so I maybe need to turn up I think they tried to turn up the volume and turned it down a little bit. My point was, I was trying to recap the conversation.
Talking over each other.
Too many talking.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
Okay, yeah, my concept was that, say, for example, we have a vacancy. We have 10 applicants that are interested in the position. And so instead of the council voting, I guess each one would be the preference person, we do the preference preferential voting, where a council member would get a total of like 10 votes, award 5 votes to their most favored, 4 votes for their second most favored, and 3, 2, 1. And then when the council member comes up to give their votes, they can say, I give 5 votes to this person, 4, 3, 2, 1. And those are my preferences in the number of votes. So once all 4 council members go through the tallying, the clerk would tally up the votes and say, well, if there would be one person most likely, the odds are we would have one person that would have the most votes.
Yeah, that's what we did last time, and some people, some members of the council didn't vote at all, and, but you still have to say, even though, let's say your person that you picked didn't get enough votes, you could still say no.
Right.
You know, on that you're basically, David, what you're doing is you're refining it like we did last time, down to a few select people, you know. If I can, let me throw out a couple of other ideas in the mix. One is, I think the 90 days, I think we should increase that to 120, and I'll tell you why. Because it's going to take 30 days just for us to get our act together, to send out notices, to receive notices back from, you know, we had like 12, 14 applicants for the District 3 seat, and we had to sort through all of those, see who qualified. We found out several didn't qualify.
Right.
You know, so there's a time lag here, and it doesn't happen overnight. So I think the additional 30 days, now, we can make a decision within the 60 days.
Right.
Or immediately thereafter, if we have consensus. But I would rather give a 120-day cushion to that selection process. And I'm with Jim on the withholding payment. I think that's not
What was
the
your
way.
idea?
That wasn't my idea. It was the other mayor's idea.
Okay. Usual mayor.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor,
The real
can I
mayor.
Can I ask a quick question, if you would, please? How much pressure can we put on the Broward County Election Department to hold an election? I mean, they can't deny us forever.
No, but
I
we
mean-
can also put in this, we can say, if we cannot come to a consensus within 120 days, that we can put forth for a special election to the availability of the SOE.
But that's what I'm asking, how long can they hold off? Do you have any ideas, anybody, as to how
I
long
think
they can?
Andy's done some research.
Yeah.
It's difficult to say. The last time they put it off because they were in the process of cleaning up the voter rolls, which is why they couldn't accommodate us. Where we got into trouble was, or where we had an issue, was our charter called for us to have that special election within a limited period of time. They could not accommodate us within that period of time. So if it was, if the result was perhaps to go to a special election in 90 days or 120 days, or as the supervisor of elections office is able to accommodate, that would avoid a violation of the charter.
I like the idea of a special election better than withholding of funds.
Yeah, I don't think it accomplishes
But
anything.
my other challenge with the special election is it's not free. I mean, I think it's 30, 40 grand to have the special election.
I heard a number about half of that.
Half. I thought it would, Russell, you have better detail?
Good evening, council. For the record, Russell Muniz, Assistant Town Administrator. Getting a lot of feedback here, sorry about that. So I have reached out to the Supervisor of Elections twice just this week, trying to get some more information. Unfortunately, I have not gotten an official response from them as to what it would cost. But in my previous employ, we have had special elections, and I don't see, for the number of precincts that we have here in the town of Southwest Ranches, which is only 2, that we would have an election approaching anywhere near $15,000, even $20,000. I can't imagine it would
Okay.
be that high. It'd be much less than that, I believe.
Perfect, good.
So it's a reasonable number.
It is a reasonable number, but I'd hate to spend it if we ended up having a special election 2 months before Election Day. So maybe we can put some time parameters around this. If somebody was removed from office, 2 months, 3 months into their term for cause, and where we can possibly go another 4 months without coming to resolution on who, it's then only, what am I up to, 3 or 4, 7 months? It's only 2 months, 3 months to
We're
election
talking a
day.
two-year cycle. We have an election every 2 years.
Oh, I understand. Oh, good point, good point. But hold on, the next election day is what we've talked about using to replace that person.
Right,
It was either the next election day or us appoint somebody, the way I've read this and
right,
understand it.
right.
So
You're looking at a two-year cycle regardless. So,
Agree,
if somebody had to, if we had a vacancy,
Right.
let's just put it that way, we had a vacancy and there was still more than a year to go,
right.
then I think a special election might be warranted.
But what if election day was next month? So it's
Then I
13
don't
months.
think it would be warranted, because
To have a special election or use the
use
upcoming
a regular
election?
election.
Yeah, agree, but that's that's that gap that I'm trying to figure out right now.
Wouldn't
If
that be
somebody's
like,
removed from office within a reasonable time from election day, and we've got 4 months to figure it out, and election day is now only 2 months away, do we really want to have a special election?
I would say no.
I would agree.
You know.
So should we be putting something in here to cover that type of a scenario?
I would say, yeah, I mean, I think we should. The question is what?
Yeah,
My thoughts are a year. It's greater than a year.
oh, the next election day. So the election day would just have to have passed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay,
Because you're looking at 4 months for the selection process.
right.
Then you're gonna, then you've got 8 months technically. Maybe we want to shorten that. I don't know.
Right,
That's why we're talking. Because it's going to be a charter question.
right. It's got to be simple.
Yeah, and we got to make it somehow simple.
Richard, any suggestions on language? Do you understand what we're trying to drive at?
I understand, I mean, we're gonna have to look at that as to the exact language. I mean, because it's gotta be clear and concise.
Right.
So, I mean, just off the cuff, not, not really yet. I mean, that's something we can come
Okay.
back with, but,
So we're on second reading then.
yeah.
Gary, your idea of extending it a period of time, I like that idea a lot. Give us a lot more time to look at things. And then, like I said, to decide on what period of time after that before you'd have a special election. I think that's something we need to look at. But to extend it so that we would have time and give Broward County time also to have a special election if one were needed, whereas you rush it in 60 days, 120 days is ample time, I would think, for Broward County to
Yeah,
be able to
it-
do something. So I like that idea.
It gives us an additional 30 days, which we don't have to use.
Right.
We
Oh, no.
may be able to come to consensus in 60 days.
Sure.
Or something,
Or sooner.
or 90 days.
Right, right, absolutely.
Something to that effect.
Russell, when you get in touch finally with the SOE, can you find out what their lead time requirements are? Because if they need 6 months' notice for a special election, this is all moot discussion.
Yeah.
There'll be a new election day
Yeah, that's,
beforehand.
well,
Yeah, I would say generally, I don't know that they need 6 months. I certainly
just
will ask the
throwing a
question.
number
Yeah,
out.
I certainly will ask the question.
Good.
but here's another question. No, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry.
We were talking
I'll
about,
come back to it.
yeah.
Something that I want to bring to your
do we have
attention.
what's our deadline now?
That's what I was just, thank you. I was
What's
just
our
going to say.
deadline now to get it
I was just going to say the
ballot?
same thing. We're running a very tight timeline. This ballot question has to be decided by Monday. So we need to get the supervisor of elections what the ballot questions will be on Monday. They have qualifying, starts Monday, it ends, I'm sure that they would probably give us a little bit, I would hope, maybe until Friday, because that's when qualifying ends. So maybe they would allow us to submit up until Friday. But we won't have another council meeting until the 23rd. So I would say the ballot question needs to be firmed up tonight so that we can submit to them and they'll know what to place on the ballot and start getting that ready.
Okay. So do we have consensus on the 120 days?
Yes.
I'm in agreement.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Do we
I
have
like-
consensus on not penalizing the council with their stipends?
I'm in agreement.
Do we have consensus on what?
On removing the pay penalty?
To remove the pay penalty?
Yeah.
From the language, it's,
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
okay.
Yes, I understand.
Bob, do you agree with that, or you
I
don't?
like some sort of a poison pill there, because I'm not talking about this council. I'm talking about ones I've seen and ones that we may see in the future. I like some sort of a big stick there.
Well, I really do, after thinking about it over a week from the last reading, I really don't agree with the pay. I just don't think it's going to accomplish what we think it's going to accomplish. You know. The big stick, maybe, that's why I came up with the 120 days,
That's
120
no
days.
stick, that gives you
No, but it gives
time.
us more time, you
Right.
know, to put things in perspective.
Then what, then?
Then we can go to a special election. If we can't make a decision.
Well, if we can do a special election within the time frame, then I'm comfortable with it.
Which
With
timeframe?
Getting rid of the stipend, stopping the payment.
I'm sorry.
So he's saying if you can give a special exception, right, you're okay with removing that poison pill of
Right.
salary?
So the special election, right. If we do a special election in lieu of removing council salary, if the council can't agree, then I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I would do the special election.
Yeah.
I'm totally in favor of that, where
Okay.
the public decides.
Right.
If we can't come to a decision.
Right.
I think it's actually money well spent,
I agree.
you know, because if we're deadlocked up here,
Yep,
there's a reason,
yep.
you know.
Not putting it out to the public is the best recourse.
Yeah. Question is, what is our time frame? Have you got a suggestion? Within a year?
Within a year doesn't make sense. I mean,
By a year, I'm sorry,
so,
12 months.
Wouldn't that be up to the supervisor of election as soon as possible? I mean, we would ask for it. If we couldn't come up with something, we would ask for it. And then we might have to wait a month or two, but we're not going to say a year, but wouldn't it be up to them to decide?
how about having a special election except for in the case when the removal of the council members within 3 months of an election?
Within 3 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, probably longer.
4 months, 5 months?
I'm concerned with
6 months.
the language.
Yeah, okay.
The amendment being too long.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
too wordy.
We need it clear and concise.
I'm all right with less words.
Okay. I mean, I think, Andy, you had mentioned, when you had mentioned before in your comments regarding, you know, I forgot how you worded it, but it had something to do as soon as, you know, the SOE.
As the SOE schedule allows.
Right, yeah, because we don't want
To avoid
jam
us
them
having a
up.
charter violation.
Right.
Right.
So as soon as the SOE or as soon as the SOE can effectuate it, maybe something like that, but clear and concise.
So if we are approaching an election then, and the SOE says, no, I'm all tied up with the presidential election coming up, then we wouldn't appoint somebody, we can't appoint somebody, because we can't agree, and we would be waiting until that election, that the supervisor of elections is tied up on. Okay.
David, do you have anything to share? You want to add?
No, I think you guys are going down the right track. I'm in agreement.
Okay, before I open it up to the public, I'm going to need you guys to amend the motion. David,
I'm sorry?
before I open it up to the public, I would like for you to amend your motion.
All right, yeah, I would like to amend my motion to remove the penalty of the council member pay and extending the time frame to, what was it, 120 days?
Yeah, 120.
Okay, and I think that was the extent, right?
And then if we couldn't come to consensus, we would,
Yeah, and if we cannot
Go
come
to
to a
special
consensus,
election.
then it goes to the voters in a special election.
As early as the Secretary of Elections could put it on.
yeah, did you hear that, David?
It broke up really bad.
So so as soon as the supervisor election could be able to effectuate that special election.
Okay, and then I amended to include within the time parameters that the supervisor elections is allowed.
Okay, maker of the second?
Yes, I accept the changes.
Okay. All right, I'll open it up to the public. You've got 10 minutes, but only use 3.
Noah Hollingsworth, 199th Avenue. You're missing the entire point of what you're doing. One was the Freddie Fisichella problem, where the supervisor of elections said, you can't have a special election. You have to go to one of the regular ones. And the earliest one would be March, which was quite a few months outside our limits. You're saying 120 days. Now, it was way over 120 days before we could have an election then. You haven't corrected the problem. It still exists. That's the entire exercise that you're trying to do right now, is cure the problem. And you're not doing that. There was a suggestion made that was totally ignored, was one, do like the Catholic Church does when they're choosing a new pope. You go into session and you stay there until we see the white smoke. No matter how long it takes. You take the people after 30 days that apply for the job and you pick one. And you don't come out of session until it's picked. Period. Only when the supervisor election is going to put it over the 120 days. And I guarantee that after you being in session 24 hours a day, until such time as it's picked, you'll pick one way or the other. I guarantee that. Because you don't want to be in session, not having anything but bathroom breaks, having to eat on the dais, et cetera, et cetera. So, my suggestion is cure the problem you originally started out for. You're not curing it. So, thank you.
Debbie Green, 52 199th Avenue. Yeah, I kind of feel like you all kind of lost sight of why this all came up to you as well. Maybe not, don't have the same thought process as Newell, but I thought part of it was that the council needs to appoint someone in the case that, when it becomes necessary. And I think that's part of your responsibility as someone sitting on the council, is to do your job and to figure out a way to appoint someone to do that. And I thought part of the urgency of needing to get this done was for some of the town business, as people come before you and certain things that require a 5-0 vote, that would just halt any of that kind of business of people coming before you and they couldn't proceed. So by trying to put some kind of deadlines or poison pill or whatever, it is. So if it is 4 months and in that time that whoever's remaining on the council cannot appoint somebody, then I do think it should go, then to the electorate, not out some big amount of time, because then we're back to what I thought was the original, one of the intentions of amending the charter was to not halt that kind of business coming before the town. And I think part of a poison pill is if this council can't come to a decision and it has to go out to, in a special election, and it costs the town $15,000, $20,000, maybe that's where people start thinking maybe that person shouldn't be sitting up on council because they can't even get together to do this. Maybe that person doesn't belong there anymore. So maybe that's the poison pill.
Good evening, Jason Halberg, 5751 Thoroughbred Lane. Yeah, I'm also not in favor of extending it. I think at the end of the day, there's business to be done. And you guys have things that are going to be coming in front of you, and it's almost like you're putting another zoning in progress in place, right? Because quasi-judicial matters will not be able to be deliberated on during this time. So you think about that. I trust that town staff can get a notice out to the town very quickly to gather or to garner some interest of the community, and you guys can quickly get it on your agenda And if you need to set up another special meeting, you can set up another special meeting. If this was, of the highest priority, there's no reason you can't get it done in 60 days. You could. So my suggestion would be is, let's tighten the window. And if after that period of time, it doesn't, you guys can't decide, let it go to the special elections, if that's an option. And maybe you give them, I know that you're working on some language, but maybe give them 30 days to give you a confirmation that they are able to do it. And if they aren't, after that 30-day window expires by their non-acceptance of the request, it comes back to you guys, and maybe you're giving another 30 days to decide, but there needs to be some sort of, as they call, poison pill. And maybe an advisory board is that poison pill. It's the last thing you want, is residents to decide. So knowing that residents would have that say, it encourages you guys to come to an agreement. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, I just want to jump in real quick. And
Go ahead,
just, the issue before was we were in violation of our charter. This language corrects that.
Okay.
So I just wanted to jump in there. That was the prior issue. That's why we're doing these changes, and that's why this new language will correct that.
Okay. But the motion and the second that's on the table now, that fixes the problem and will be able to be put on the ballot?
Correct.
Okay.
I like the idea of shortening it. I mean, that was our original intent.
What, do you want to go from 120 back down to 60?
Well, I mean, 90 might be a compromise. 60 would be best for the town, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah, I think 60 is better for the town, but I'm trying to give us some room here because we don't know we could lose 2 council members.
Sure.
Bob, what if it's the time like it is now where people are on vacation? They're not going to disrupt their vacation. You're not going to cancel your vacation because of something like this, all right? And this may fall in that time frame where you're leaving it just the last 2 or 3 weeks of it. So you're not going to, you're not going to cancel your plans, I don't think, for a vacation to do this. I wouldn't guess you would. So I still like the 120 days, which gives us enough time to go through the summer months or to go through the winter months when people are leaving, but yet have a full council here.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the 120 days, but I'd like to get it done earlier than that.
Oh, yeah.
That's just the extreme.
Yeah.
Because we could put out notices within 2 weeks. We could get them back. We could filter them within 30 days, and then we could work on the process immediately after that. I only envision the 120 days as we're locked up and we're trying to unlock.
Yeah, but giving ourselves 2 more months to unlock, to me, is, I mean, I'd like to think that whoever encounters this problem will get it done right away, but
What if one of us are out of town?
then we could do it on the telephone or something along those lines like David's doing now. Steve's done from vacation on important things. Doug has as well. We all have it from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think by giving ourselves so much luxury of time, we're really not helping the residents, particularly on quasi-judicial items, and that's the point behind all this.
Yeah.
We need
It's
5-0.
It's the 5-0 vote
Right, right.
that's driving this. I get that.
Right, so.
Yeah, I fully understand that. I'm just
I mean, if
just
you guys are
thinking.
worried- yeah, if you guys are worried
there's
about
2 out, if
vacations-
there's 2 people out,
Right.
let's say one of us gets in a car accident, we're incapacitated.
Right.
And 2 other people or 1 other people are,
Whatever the scenarios are.
yeah, are out of the country, out of town.
Right, right,
Not taking messages, what do you do? Okay.
right.
And like legal counsel said, this fixes the charter issue.
Mm-hmm.
If we need to go
Well,
back to the 90 days.
The process I don't have a problem with at this point. I mean, the variable, if we can shorten it up, then our real variable for time becomes the supervisor of elections office. If they tell us it's 4 months, then we're hoping there's an election day beforehand. I agree. I mean, our point is to get as much quasi-judicial business done in a year as comes our way. I'd hate to put it back until December or when have you, or November. I'd really rather tighten it up. I mean, I can go for 90 days, but again, the supervisor elections would be kicking in on the 91st day, trying to get back. Actually, I would imagine that if we thought we were heading that way because we hadn't made progress during the time frame, we probably would be engaging the supervisor of elections in discussion a little earlier than waiting the whole 90 days. So, I mean, I'm looking to shave time now, so that's
Bob,
not,
we could do it within 90 days. I mean, but we're not in violation of the charter if it's at 120 days. That gives us leeway that if something does happen, but we could get it done in 30 days. We could get it done in 2 weeks if you wanted to. I mean, that'd be up to the council, you know?
yeah.
But to set a time frame that you would be crunched on if something were to happen, or vacations, or it fell at the wrong time, you know, just give yourself a little leeway.
Yeah.
You know,
To me,
it's-
90
it-
days has the leeway built
And this
into
is
it.
this is a ballot question. It
Right.
may not pass. you know.
Right.
It's
Well,
up
that-
to the voters.
Let's assume it passes.
Well, I'm,
Then I
I'm
couldn't
just
care about the
pointing
number
out
of
that-
days.
yeah, you
There
know,
might be a few people who vote against it because they don't like the time frame. But, yeah, again, I guess I could go along with the rest of it if we can drop it down to 90. I'm not for giving ourselves a lot of luxury of time. I don't think we need to have marathon sessions like Newell is suggesting, but I think we can get it. Andy, how long was the last process with Freddie, just for basis of comparison?
From
From
memory,
his
I
resignation.
want to say we tried to hold to about 60 days.
Okay,
Yeah, Russell's shaking his head yes as well.
okay.
Yeah, so we were about 60 in that process. We advertised it, we got a bunch of responses back.
Right.
We sorted through those, put packages together for all of you to go through and look at and begin your review. So, yeah, all things considered, if the 4 remaining council members are in town, yeah, 60 days could be viable. certainly.
So then, I mean, if we've done it in the past recently in 60 days, 90 days is probably gives us some luxury of time. I think 120 pushes it too far.
okay. David, do you have any thoughts on this as the maker of the motion?
I stand by the 120.
Okay,
So we have a motion that's been made
Second.
and seconded, so.
at the 120. Hopefully, getting it done earlier. I agree with you, getting it done in 60 days
Right.
is the way to fly. I mean,
So this only takes a 3-2, right?
huh?
This only takes a 3-2, right?
Correct.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3-1 tonight.
Can I ask a quick question? If we are in violation of the charter, what happens? If we set it at 60 days, 30 days, 10 days, or 120 days, if we pass that mark and in violation of the charter, what happens?
We don't get the cookie.
Yeah, there's no special election. I mean, you're in violation of the charter, so.
And what, is there some type of punishment? Is there something that happens, or what could consequences be?
I mean, I don't, other than violation of charter and not holding a special exception, there's nothing that comes especially to mind, unless you know something.
No, I just wanted to touch on, if you if you set the limit at 120 days, I think what the language that you're trying to say now is that if you go to 120 days and you still haven't made a decision, then it goes to a special election. So you wouldn't be violating the charter. You're basically saying, we haven't come to a decision, we're asking for a special election to be held, and then the supervisor of election would hold that election for you. So there's no violation of the charter. I'm not sure what.
Okay.
I think you were saying if you reduced it, but I get what you're saying.
Okay, I understand, right.
And clearly, we wouldn't wait till the 120th day
Right.
to seek out the supervisor's support on scheduling an election.
Right.
We would do that immediately. Once we knew there was a vacancy, we would start investigating what would be the earliest that you could do an election. We would send that letter out. And if they told us, oh, we could do an election in 60 days, 90 days, you would have that information in front of you, hopefully come to an agreement on a replacement prior to that. But if need be, you would know when you would be able to schedule an election.
And we could trigger a special election on the 45th day if we wanted it.
100%.
Yep.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, if we knew we weren't going to
Yeah, if we weren't-
agree,
yeah. So we could trigger that at any time.
right.
Yeah, you're giving yourself options.
Again, so we have a motion that's been amended and seconded.
Okay, I think we've beat this pretty hard. Let's call the question, if there's no other comments.
Councilmember Albritton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hartman?
No,
Councilmember Kaczynski?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jablonski?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, normally I make a statement right about now, and I can't. So I will take a motion to adjourn from somebody.
Motion to adjourn.
Excellent.
Meeting's adjourned.